big role. I live, I breathe, I sleep it.
It's content that travels.
We convert the customer.
Already seen double-digit growth.
Beyond just a transaction.
Hi everyone, my name is Miriam Garamani. Please do call me Mary, and I am the CEO of Bambuser. I want to give you a warm welcome to our Beyond webinar. This is our flagship webinar for the Bambuser community. Today, we will bring you on a journey where we together will explore the intersection of innovation, strategy, and human connection in the ever-evolving e-commerce space. We have an amazing lineup of speakers from technology experts to leading brands and partners. Your guide to today's journey of going beyond will be Nani, our product owner. So she will be the one introducing you to each and every one of them today. So over to you, Nani, and please enjoy.
Hi, everyone. As Mary said, I'm Nani, product owner here at Bambuser, and I'm so excited to be with you here today. I know you're all ready to dive in, so let's get right to it. We begin with an opening session by Kristina Brjazgunova, VP of Product and Innovation here at Bambuser. Kristina will delve into the technologies shaping our industry and why. So get ready for Beyond Growth, Technology's Untapped Potential for your business.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kristina Brjazgunova. I'm the VP of Product and Innovation here at Bambuser. And today I have the honor of speaking to you about the topic of technology's untapped potential for your business. We have a lot to cover in a short period of time, so let's get into it. Today, I wanted to talk to you about 3 themes and trends that we are seeing within Bambuser and we're passionately discussing when it comes to commerce. First of all, we wanted to discuss the video and social media and how it's really taking over the world. It's a topic we hold dearly to our hearts here at Bambuser, as we were really the pioneers of bringing live streaming to so many brands around the world. And we're seeing that this trend is here very much to stay, and I'm excited to introduce it to you further. The next theme, the next trend that we're going to talk about, of course, requires no introduction, and that's the ascent of AI. I will touch on a couple of things that really trigger my inspiration, and I hope you will find it exciting and interesting for your businesses and your customers. Last but not least, we need to talk about the human. Technological landscapes are complicated these days, but at the end of the day, we are all human, and technology does not exist outside of society. So we really want to hone in on the point of what role does a human play in the land of social media, AI, and video commerce. So let's get into it with video and social media. When I say that they're taking over, I really mean it. Today, over 3/4 of the world's population is using social media platforms. Everything from TikTok all the way through the Line, WeChat, BeReal, Instagram, WhatsApp, you name it. There's a huge broad adoption of all of these technologies. And what is really interesting is that not only are these technologies adopted by 5.5 billion people, but also they're adopted very deeply and very frequently, where on average, every person out of 5.5 billion people on this planet is spending 2.5 hours every day on social media platforms. What is important to highlight is that a lot of these social media platforms can be summarized by their immersivity, interactivity. Most of these platforms are video first. Hopefully, it comes as no surprise that video will account for over 85% of internet's traffic by 2025, according to Cisco's annual internet report from 2024. So, this is the macroeconomic environment. Let's talk about what's happening within commerce. I pulled out a stat from McKinsey's State of Fashion report from November in 2024 about the fact that the brand discovery journey is really being shaped by social media. Now, social media is equally as common for customers to use when it comes to discovering your brands and discovering your products, as much as search engines being. So it's around 38% for social media and 37% of customers that are using it as a way to get inspired for what to purchase next. These numbers could vary depending on where you are in the world or what generations you're talking about. If we think about Generation Z, the younger generations, it could be as many as 70% of them using social media to get inspired and learn about what brands and products to buy. What I'm trying to say is that the experiential expectations are being reset by social media platforms. Here we have some videos of TikToks, of Instagram Reels. What is apparent is that these platforms are incredibly engaging, they're exciting, they're personalized, and they're immersive, and they're video first. Sadly, what we're seeing today still is that a lot of experiences that brands have today still look a little bit something like this: incredibly static, a lot of white space, and frankly speaking, quite boring. Sadly, the websites and apps of today are experiencing a huge decline in traffic, in engagement, in conversion. And that, of course, comes as a result of the experiential gap that we're seeing from social media, where your customers and yourself, you spend so much time, but then when you land on the brand's website, you're faced with an experience that looks something like this. So, the first takeaway I want you to get from my presentation is this: what you can do about this is bridge this experiential gap between social media platforms and your website and apps. And the gap you're trying to bridge here is technical. You can bring social media closer to your apps and your website, but also you can make them look seamless when customers coming from social media into your website and app, make it come alive. Now, if you're wondering how you can do that, I wanted to pull out some examples of some of the capabilities we have on our platforms that allow you to bridge the technical gap and the experiential gap. Let's start with the first one. With your socials, I pulled out an example where a brand can embed a link that is redirecting the customer to a vertically scrollable playlist that is fully shoppable, it's fully immersive, and it looks like social media platform. But actually what you're seeing here in the first GIF is an experience on the brand's website. And the checkout and the full experience happens on the brand's website. To the customer, it looks the same as if they're on social media. But in reality, the data, the customer connection, and the full checkout happens on the brand's website. The second example is something I hold dear to our heart, and that's, of course, our capability of streaming onto social platforms. We have extensive social selling capability where you can stream a live stream onto your account, allow your customers to enter a code of the products they're seeing live, have the product cards recommended to them in the chat, and in the click of a button, the customer can immediately add this product into their basket on your website. Again, experientially, it feels like they're still in the social media platform, but in reality, the interaction is happening on your website and your app. On the experiential gap side, on the right-hand side, you see some examples of our technology being available on native mobile apps as well as web. I'm very pleased to say we recently released a new live SDK that allows you to really have an incredible live stream experience in your apps. And then on the right-hand side, you see the full suite of our solutions where you can use digital clienteling and social commerce together seamlessly through one platform on both your apps and your website. So hopefully that gives you some food for thought. I would like to pivot into the second theme of my presentation, which is the ascent of AI. And here, I really want to take a step back and talk about the fact that AI is not a new technology, and it's been around for quite some time. Personally, I've been working with it for over 10 years. But what I'm finding these days is that we can thank one company and one product for the rapid adoption of AI globally. Of course, I'm referring to OpenAI releasing ChatGPT back in November 2022. With the release of ChatGPT, what this meant is that all of us got the chance to experience the power of AI for daily chores all the way down to planning our weddings, planning our outfits, or thinking of what's the next thing that we should buy. Essentially, what we're seeing is that AI is resetting the way in which customers are experiencing the internet and therefore discovering brands and products that they should be purchasing. We've seen a number of stories going viral where people are looking for beauty routines, asking for wedding outfits, or what car they should purchase with the help of conversational interfaces like Gemini, like Claude. And of course, what I'm trying to say is that when we hear topics like AI commerce, AI in commerce, conversational commerce, this is not the future. This is the reality of what's happening right now, right here, with your customers and your brands. And we're all here at the front lines. Think about the way that we can innovate. And I wanted to go back to a quote that I shared with you earlier about the importance of social media in impacting your brand's discovery journey. Well, if we were saying that the search was important and so is social media, well, for search, the interesting update is that that's changing a little bit thanks to generative AI conversational interfaces. Search landscape is changing completely. For the first time in 20 years, Google is losing their market share within the search market, which is unheard of, frankly speaking. And the loss can be attributed to the rise of what is often referred to as the GEO. GEO is generative engine optimization. Essentially, I'm giving you a definition that we're using internally here at Bambuser. There are many out there, but the way that we like to think about it is essentially a way of optimizing your content, your products, your site, your brand to be discovered, understood, and recommended by AI systems like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude. Why is this important or why is this interesting? This is not a space that you need to pay to play. It's free. So next time a customer is asking what beauty routine they should have, what car they should buy, or what they should wear on their wedding, you can recommend to them your articles, your content, your product. And the way you can do that is by optimizing your content to be GEO friendly. You need to think about user queries, not keywords. You need to have clear section with a lot of bullet points and explanations of the benefits, user-facing type of information, such as reviews, what type of different ways in which you can position the product. So really think broad and at the same time broad and targeted. So think of the breadth of the things that your product can work for. Make sure you embed it on your sites, experiment, and hopefully next time the customer is asking for that beauty routine or for that car they should be buying, your brand, your site, your product pages gets recommended to the customer. I want to switch up the gears here a little bit and go back to the core of what we do here at Bambuser, which is, of course, video. Why does GEO and AI commerce matters in the world of video? And that's because it's the next frontier. What we're seeing right now with chat interfaces is that they're returning a lot of text, a lot of long paragraphs and bullets that they find on the internet. But it doesn't need to be like that. We envisage a future where when you're speaking to a conversational AI, instead of getting a long essay back, you're getting a short form video from the brand directly with a product already embedded there, ready to shop. Not giving too much away here, but this is the direction in which we're thinking that commerce is going to evolve. And all of us here have the ability to change that and make that a reality. I want to wrap up the AI section with an important point. I often hear from friends, my colleagues, some clients about the cost of video, saying, video is very expensive. To make really good video, it takes a lot of effort. I've personally ran many video shoots. I've brought in photogrammetry 3D rigs. I understand the cost back in the day used to require having a lot of different people, physical assets being brought in, and it can go up to tens of thousands of dollars to create a couple of images or a couple of videos. The reality of today with AI is different. With a few very smart connections between different AIs, you are able to generate immersive videos of your products with a couple of dollars and hopefully a couple of beers, getting together with your team and fundamentally just testing and hacking. There are a lot of tools out there that you can try out for yourselves. Runway ML, Canva, Google's Veo. All of these solutions have different applications, but essentially we're seeing that this world is already here. And the videos that you're seeing that we generated was done with a prompt, a very good prompt, and an image, nothing else. Back in the day, something like what you're looking at here, the 360 rotation of the product, used to cost around $300 to $400 to create. This costs a couple of dollars. Hopefully, this leaves you with some food for thought of what you can do about AI. And first of all, be where your consumers are. You are all using conversational interfaces in your day to day life. Think about your brand, think about your customers, and meet them there. And of course, secondly, experiment. You have to try out all of these technologies. There's so many of them becoming available at your fingertips. The more you try, the more you experiment, the more you learn, the more you fail, and the more you're likely to win. I would like to wrap up my presentation by putting the focus back onto the human. When we talk about technology, we need to recognize that technology never existed outside of society. I often like to think that technology is a reflection of society and the point in time that we exist in. And the role of the human is extremely important when it comes to social media and even AI. And as a way to prove that, I recently had the privilege of listening to a lot of AI world leaders, courtesy of Sequoia Capital, a VC firm back in Silicon Valley, bringing together world's leading experts in AI, talking about what is the future. There were a lot of insights, but one key takeaway that I had from all of the talks was the fact that the human plays an incredibly important role with these technologies. Whether it is providing context, ethical judgment, or even oversight, we should never forget about the human and the machine. Which brings me to an important point about the future of commerce. When we're designing the future customer journeys, it is an important question for us to think about. What role will the human and technology play in your customer's experience? It is important to understand that we cannot automate everything because our customers still expect a human touch and they want to have that close connection with your brand. And if you don't believe me, the writing's on the wall. A lot of research is showing that Generation Z, in particularly, is the loneliest generation that we've ever seen. And as a result, they really crave close human interaction with friends, with family, and most interestingly, with brands. They want to become friends with your brand. They want to know the people behind the brand, and they want to have that close connection. So if we automate everything with the technologies, we're going to miss the trick here. So I'd like to leave you with this inspiration. If people are getting lonelier, especially the younger generations, and they want to connect to other people, let your colleagues be the video heroes. We have a lot of phenomenal examples where our colleagues and clients were able to put their super passionate experts, in-house experts, that would have normally never been in front of the camera, in front of the customers. They put them front and center in a video consultation, in a live stream, in a masterclass, and it had an explosion in the amount of love, NPS, and loyalty that it drove. Essentially, you humanize the brand through technology. You're putting your best people in front of your customers and really explaining to them what relationship you can build with a brand through these people. But we shouldn't stop here. What we're seeing on the market is that user-generated content is becoming more and more important in the brand's journey. If back in the day, user-generated content used to exclusively exist on social media platforms, it is now starting to enter brands' own experiences, like their own social media accounts, as well as websites and apps. Why? Well, that's because people buy from other people. And user-generated content provides that authenticity, trust, and it has a much higher potential not only to engage, but to convert your future or potential customers. And I guess what I'm trying to get at, let your customers be your video heroes. I've met many customers that know more about the brands and the products than the brand founders themselves. They're super passionate, they're super bought in. Why not tap into that love and passion and make these customers your video heroes? Hopefully, this gives you some food for thought. Remember, when we're looking at all the new technologies, regardless of what it is important you think about what touch points do you humanize and what touch points do you automate. This brings me to the conclusion of my presentation, where we covered a lot of ground, but I want you to take away that there were these 3 global trends and themes we're really passionate about, and we're seeing that it's going to continue to shape all of the businesses in commerce. First, it's of course the video and social platforms that are here to stay. The rapid ascent of AI, and the fact that we all should be experimenting with these technologies and embedding it into our customer experience. But of course, not forgetting the role of the human. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you found some of the things that I shared with you interesting, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the presentations.
Thank you for that, Kristina. Such an inspiring session to start with. Now that we continue this exploration, I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Ayesha Khanna, AI entrepreneur, advisor, and CEO of Addo. In her session, she'll uncover AI trends and share how you can harness them to drive meaningful transformation in your business. This is Beyond the Ordinary, the power of AI in next-gen commerce.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today, all the way from Singapore. Thank you for having me. So let's talk about artificial intelligence. There is so much AI hype, but it's kind of very hard for us to understand where to start. And I really don't want this to be something that only you think the tech team or the AI team should be thinking about. Actually, today, artificial intelligence is something that every single person in a firm should think about. For example, that is the reason that the Coca-Cola CIO, Neeraj Tolmar, said that the key to value in AI is actually hunting for that value. It's not what can we do, because every day somebody will throw you a new vendor, a new platform. In the news, there will be something else. It's really what should we do? And that really boils down to where you are in your AI journey. And as a result of that, how you feel that where the value lies. What are the business problems you can solve? So here's a quick poll. You can just put in your comments. Where do you think your organization is in its AI journey right now? Are you A, exploring possibilities, or B, running pilot projects, or C, scaling up AI integrations, or D, really feeling like you're an AI first company and use it across functions? It's great to see. I see some answers coming in. If you are already an AI first company, that's amazing. But a lot of people also would say that they are just exploring possibilities at the moment. And let me tell you, we serve clients. I have an AI engineering firm. We build AI solutions for people, and many people are at different parts of the journey. So just be comfortable where you are. And depending on where you are, you have to then step back and think about where AI can add value. The most important thing that we can think about is spend time on the why. It seems obvious, but it's really not, because there's so much that AI glitzy tools, it seems, can do for you. What you really need to think about, as Einstein famously said, if I have an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions. I really want all of us to ponder on that, because our instinct sometimes is just to go to ChatGPT or to go to Claude or Gemini. These are assistants. Nobody knows your customers, your product, your domain better than you do, or even your benchmarking. The assistant can help you, but you have to think about, what did your customer really want? And maybe talk to those customers and find out. And then you can sit back and think about how you can use AI. Now, You probably read about this, that when Toys R Us wanted to create a video on the origin story of the founder, Charles Lazarus, they decided this time that they would use artificial intelligence in the process. And this happened last year, but it was the first AI generated ad in the industry. And what they did was that they decided the reason they wanted an AI generated ad was because they wanted to be more responsive to dynamic customer preferences. When something takes too long, why is that a problem? A problem in this day and age is that people's preferences change, cultural memes change. And if you want something done fast, then you have to use artificial intelligence to help you. And the way I recommend to my team is put every single step that you do of any process in a left column, and then put your ideal scenario of how AI could help you in the right column. And then talk to each other and look out at the vendors and the AI solutions out there on what is possible that can be done in a responsible manner. It's a simple exercise, but most people tend to skip it. Actually, the real thing is to very systematically approach AI. For example, there was just a few days ago an article in the Wall Street Journal on how Walmart is preparing to welcome its next customer. I don't know if you've been following Walmart, but on its earning calls, the CEO has been talking about how they're using AI throughout the company, from improving their operations to improving how they write descriptions on their SKUs and products. And now they're trying to figure out if, in fact, the buy decision is made by an AI assistant, or the buy decision is done by AI agents instead of the person, then how do you cater to that AI agent? One way to do it is to make your product very attractive to artificial intelligence. And there is something, just like there was search engine optimization, there's something called share a model, or generative engine optimization that was being talked about by Kristina just earlier, very correctly. The idea that how do you have the maximum share of the attention of an artificial intelligence, either search result or an agent? And there are emergent best practices around that. So not only are you automating your business, but you're reimagining other parts of your business as well. And you're not doing this because you want to use AI. You're actually systematically looking at the industry and how AI is disrupting it and how AI is providing you opportunities to actually rethink how you're doing your business. Another thing that you must have noticed with H&M, for example, is this new trend of voice and conversational commerce. This is not new. We've been having live shopping for some time. Even Kim Kardashian was doing it. It really started off in China, which is very close to where I live in Singapore. And now, for the first time, we are seeing that these influencers, these models, these actors are licensing their likeness, their voices to virtual avatars. There was a great deal of disgruntlement about this, especially in Hollywood. And the reason was because they were not being paid for their likeness. But if you license it responsibly, then it not only brings down their cost of using them in different scenarios, but actually it is done with full authorization from the person who has given you his or her digital twin, as has this model. So we see this, not only are we changing the way we get it, but even the influencers that we use in social media are going to be generated by AI and have large amounts of variation. Another thing that's interesting is that now you can do what is called vibe coding. So let's say that you wanted to try to make a video, or you want to try to design something, or try a model wearing something new. Um, you would need to work with an agency or your own team that's really good at that. That's their expertise. But you could make a prototype yourself, because you don't have to wait for your partner or your team member. And this is called vibe coding. Vibe coding is when you go to a coding agent such as Replit, and you could say, hey, make me an app that would show me how I could have an interactive app that would take me through a questionnaire and help me find the kinds of hair color that I should dye for a particular kind of evening that I'm going out for, or look that I'm going for. And literally, by writing this in natural language, an app can be made in Replit. Now, please note that this is not production ready. You can't put it out there for your customers. There's no security around it. The user experience is not that great at the moment. But because of the prototyping potential, this gives people who are creative by nature the ability to very quickly experiment with ideas. So there are many, many ways that work is going to change, either because you are having the ability to automate certain parts, because you can prototype it yourself, because you have you have the same models or the same videos, but actors, but you have infinite things you can do with them. And you also have the ability to now hyper personalize for your customers. Personalization is not new. I'm sure you've been using it. We have been using it for years, for all our e-commerce clients, for our logistics and financial big bank clients. But hyper personalization is new. Hyper personalization means that it knows so much about you in a nanosecond. Like, for example, Meta may know 100, every time you say something, it is able to compute 100 attributes that it knows about you. By the way, you and I could not describe more than 10 attributes for each other, maybe 20 at max. But imagine hundreds of attributes about us, because it will know us from all our digital footprint. And now more than ever, it will know us even more, because we will be doing wearable AI. So there are more and more companies coming out with hardware which has AI embedded in it that we'll either be wearing, such as AirPods by ByteDance that has AI in it, or of course the Ray-Ban glasses by Meta that has 2 microphones, a camera in it, and AI in it as well. And people will be constantly speaking to these AI agents. If you think about companies that have AI agents like Character.ai, they say that young people spend 2 to 2.5 hours a day speaking to their AI friends. This is the kind of thing that we used to hear about from TikTok and from Facebook. But now even Mark Zuckerberg has said that social media is kind of on a downturn in terms of the amount of time that is being spent on social media. So this is ambient AI. Ambient AI means it's all around us. And so that is why it is able to gather a lot more information about each person and really hyper personalize what it offers to them, right thing at the right time. So I want to talk next a little bit. All these trends are coming, but what is the biggest barrier to AI adoption you think in your company at the moment? If I said these are the 5 areas that are interesting and coming up, tell me what you could do. Would it be A, there's a lack of technical talent? B, is there resistance to change? C, there's poor data quality? Or D, unclear ROI? These are usually the 4 reasons, and please put in the comments if you can. These are usually the 4 reasons why companies struggle even when they see the potential in front of them. So I'll go on, meanwhile, to talk a little bit about why it's so important that you realize that you have a big role to play in this entire AI journey. All of those things I talked about, I started with saying that you need to have your business vision, and then you use AI as and when you need it. You notice the disruption in AI, you see the opportunity, and you have a lot to teach AI. Without the data of your company, without your expertise, your vision, no AI tool will truly be useful to your company. I'm an AI engineer. I run an AI engineering of hundreds of AI engineers work for me, and we work with some of the largest companies in the world. Whether it is their marketing department, their sales department, their operations department, we work with healthcare companies where they're doctors. There's not a single place we've gone in and been able to replace everybody with AI, because the AI has to be trained and governed by the people who actually know their business. What do I mean by governed? This is very important. There are risks associated with using AI. So every time you have a technology, it has a lot of potential. It also has risks. So we see that AI is going to change commerce as we know it, the ambient AI, conversational AI, with automated video generation, with AI agents doing the work for you. But each one of them has risks as well. And you, as business people, need to make a matrix like this and think about, well, what should we tackle first? What has the most business impact? Should I be using automated ad generation? Should I be instead looking at virtual avatars? Should I be putting in our videos in a certain way? Should I be looking for ambient earbuds and putting in our AI over there? These are the prioritization that you need to do as a company. So that's the first thing. Prioritize what matters when it comes to AI implementation. Second thing is, we know that AI can make mistakes. The last thing you want is you're recommending something that is not true, that is racist or biased, misogynist, abusive, that you are using the likeness of a person or music that is actually not authorized by that person, that in fact you are talking in a chatbot to your customer, but that customer's data and under different states, whether it's California or New York or the European Union or the Middle East, there are different laws everywhere. So you make a risk framework where you see what you will be working on and how much risk there is and how to mitigate that risk. That's why, of course, you can prototype yourself, but you always need to work with industry experts. This is an example of a woman that was profiled in a documentary where the AI did not let her get into her own rental luxury apartment because they thought she was an intruder. This is because the data in the AI is biased. This is very important. A lot of the work that we do is actually removing the bias from data. Sometimes the AI makes mistakes and says completely wrong things. There are ways to manage it and restrict it to your brand, your values, your documents. But if you don't do that, even when Google didn't do that, their stock price went down. The reason I'm telling you all this is because this is not the responsibility of HR or IT. This is all our responsibility. And all of us that put our hand up and know this will actually have a job for the rest of our lives. This is what CEOs are looking for. The person who has the business strategy, business vision on how to use AI, and knows the risks and puts up her or his hand and says, hey, have you considered XYZ? And when you put them together, you have a killer e-commerce strategy that is free from risk, but is also really customer obsessed. When you use AI, for example, you may be creating chatbots that can be harmful to your customers. They could be manipulative because of the cyber risk that is there. So please note that it's very important that you make sure AI does not manipulate your customers in any way. And again, these are not things technically you need to know, but these are things as more and more shopping will be done on the recommendation of agents that you need to understand how to work with those agents, but also if you build your own, that they're not manipulating it, because under the European Union, you could be fined for such a thing as well. Now, one of the things that's very important when you're doing artificial intelligence is to bring your team along for the process. This is the number one reason that AI is not adopted in a company, even when it's so obvious, when the tools are there, they're affordable, they're possible, is because the head of the team does not explain and is transparent about how AI will change how they work. So this is the head, chief HR officer of IBM, and they created an amazing internal productivity tool for HR. But because they did not explain to HR how it would actually help their job, not replace them, and they did not explain to employees that this HR assistant was going to increase and give them more time, their employee satisfaction rate went down tremendously. And when she actually did take the time, a few months to explain it, it went up back again. So I really believe that it's very important to actually talk about these things. Now, I'm just going to spend a minute talking about the future of AI, which is robotics or agentic workflows. Agentic workflows are when the AI does a lot of the work for you. I think the most important thing that I wanted to speak to you about today, because I'm sure you're reading a lot about artificial intelligence, is your role in a business. The World Economic Forum actually did a report on the future of work. They interviewed 1,000 CEOs that together employ 14 million people across 55 industries. And they said, what's the number one disruption in every single department in your company? And the CEOs answered, it's AI. And then the surveyors asked, are you thinking of replacing your people with AI? And they said, oh God, no. We are desperate for people. We are desperate for people who know how to work with AI from a business strategy perspective, who are not afraid to upskill themselves and take their team along for the journey, not just a solopreneur, but lead their team and who can govern their risks. There is a skills gap in the market today. The opportunity for you and me to thrive in this incredible new next generation AI e-commerce journey has never been bigger. The purpose of this talk is to make us, you and me, the hero of the story, not the AI. And for that, you already have the skills. You have the business knowledge, you have the customer knowledge. Now you just need to encourage your team and yourself, learn to work with AI. Robots are going to come, agents are going to come. But with that attitude, you will always stay ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Dr. Ayesha. Next, we turn our attention to brands that are truly redefining customer experience through omnichannel excellence. First, we'll hear from Simon Swanborough, Principal Product Manager at Currys, alongside Bambuser's very own CMO, Kabil Shah.
Welcome everyone to Bambuser Beyond. I'm super excited and thrilled to welcome Simon from Currys, who's going to be talking to us a little bit about virtual consultations. Simon, if I could ask you to give our community and our users a quick introduction, both into Currys, because we are seeing people from around the world, and then yourself in the role you play here.
Yeah, no problem. So Currys is a mixed electrical and mobiles retailer in the UK. We also have stores in the Nordics as well, across various brands, including Outshop, etc. But yeah, we're a retailer online and stores, real omni-channel retailer.
Oh, fantastic. Amazing. And your role within Currys?
Yeah, so I'm a principal product manager for all things digital colleague.
Okay.
So I look after things like video consultation, but also our clienteling in stores, and also some of our CMC capabilities, so our contact center capabilities as well.
Amazing. So virtual consultation and what you've been driving at Currys, where did the inspiration come from? Why virtual consultation?
Yeah, we've been doing virtual consultation a little while now. So we started sort of 2018, 2019, experimenting with a bit more of a supplier sort of focus, a bit more narrowed down. Got a few suppliers that were working with us to do something. And then obviously COVID hit and the pandemic, and that accelerated a lot of our thoughts on this. We already had the platform. So, and we also had colleagues in stores that couldn't open the stores, so expertise that was going to waste really with that. So it was a great opportunity to connect with customers from home into that expertise. So that's where it started. And then after COVID, still massive channel for us, really a key part of our strategy to engage customers in every touch point and use our expertise in stores and in our channels. So yeah, continued on, and it's been really good since.
Amazing. So COVID was initially something that you had the idea anyway. COVID kind of, with most things digital, transformed and made everyone have to do it quicker. And now in terms of the new normal, it's something that's part of business as usual in terms of virtual consultation. Wow. And is there some success measures? You talked about engagement, you talked about touch points in the engagement, omnichannel. What are the success measures you've seen?
Yeah, it's really tempting to measure sort of the standard conversion metrics, or what percentage of your customers are using it, etc. But actually, we've sort of more narrowed into, can we get the demand met? And can we get the demand met with quality conversations? So is our customer satisfaction good? And are we giving quality interactions? And the rest come really. So, we've seen conversion come, transactions come, all of that good stuff come, but it comes off the base of those KPIs. Yeah.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head. So many people talk about conversion and sales, but also customer satisfaction, right? And in terms of CSAT and those types of things, has there been some direct customer feedback about the consultation service? Have you got any anecdotal information you could share with us of a story?
Yeah, I mean, throughout our life with video consultation, it's been really clear when we get it right, customers absolutely love it. They score us really high in their post-exit interviews and things like that, and they're really good, from people having experiences where they've got to get a product right that moment. They've got a university dissertation that they've got to get sorted. We had one of those recently where a colleague sort of talked through what options were available, managed to make sure we got the right product to them quickly, all through understanding their needs through the video consultation. But there's so much verbatim about how the customers feel about it, and it gives us an opportunity to narrow in on some opportunities potentially, some things where maybe connections in stores aren't quite going right, or whatever you might want to do with technology that might improve that. So we've been able to identify a few areas where we can enhance as well. So it's not just all about the good stuff.
Yeah, and we were speaking about your social channels. I love the Currys social channels. I follow it myself. And the people in that, your kind of brand ambassadors, the store staff, could you just touch upon how they took to this and how they embraced this, and any learnings you can share from that? Yeah,
I think a lot of there's a lot of nervousness when you're going on a video, sort of interaction with a customer. So, a lot of colleagues have taken to that really well. And, there's obviously been a long embedding process. As I said, we started this 2019. So it's taken a while to embed a lot of those behaviors and how to interact in that medium. But yeah, they really have taken to it well. The system and processes are really easy, so it's really easy for them to pick up. What we use in store is the iPads, connect to the customer experience, and they don't really worry about that side of things and just concentrate on serving the customer.
Okay, and I think with the audience that are listening into us right now, a lot of them have dabbled or tried virtual consultation. If they haven't started, or if they haven't brought that into their business yet, what would you say to them in terms of things that you've learned, things that went well, things that could be improved? Like, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think the key for video consultation is that it's not the only channel. It's not the only thing you should do. It's not, you know, the final thing to the picture. It's part of that picture of that interaction with the customer. The customers are more and more demanding access to information or service wherever they want to. It's not about, you know, what we want to put forward and they use just that channel. So the video consultation has been really important in building that picture of it. And then from an interaction point, there's lots of opportunities where customers really do want that one-to-one conversation, but can't get to the stores, or you know they're quite remote. You know, we don't have stores just around the corner of everybody. So yeah, it's really important to be able to connect all of those customers that can't interact with a brand, you know, locally.
Yeah, so it's giving access to everyone, basically. I know, totally understand. And in terms of some of the things that maybe you would say you took from learnings, as in things that you would have done differently, is there anything you could share that you might have done differently?
Yeah, I think it took a while to get the sort of true ownership and use of all of the features. So, you know, taking a video call and doing the video call was fine, but using features like sending the customer to a particular page that the colleague is searching for, those sort of things need a bit more embedding, and I think we could have done more to sort of make them aware of those features. I think also the tech solution that you're running it on, making sure that, you know, the Wi-Fi is right, the connection's right, and that you're monitoring that to make sure that, you know, as I said, with the customer satisfaction, if that's dipping because of, you know, connections or whatever it might be, just identifying that and keeping going on it. So that ownership of the solution is really important. Absolutely.
So making sure everything's working, otherwise you can have the most beautiful solution, but if your Wi-Fi is not working, then
exactly,
it's not the best. Okay, and in terms of what you'd like to see next, or actually what you see next in this space, in terms of video consultation or video commerce, what are some thoughts you have? What are some insights you could share?
I think a lot of people focus on video as just the medium. I think the important part is the connecting to that customer. So I think the big next steps for us and with Bambuser as well is looking at how we connect the customer records and the customer experience consistently across the channels. So when you're having a chat conversation, when you're having a video consultation or talking to somebody in a store, that colleague has all of that information at their fingertips, and they treat that customer as a continuation of that experience and conversation. I think that's our sort of next steps for you know, evolving that. We've got some of those sort of bedrocks already, but I think we've got more to do on that, and I think that's where we want to expand that more connected part of it, rather than it just being, you know, okay, it's a video conversation, it's one video conversation, and then we move on to the next one. Building a bit more of a consistent experience.
Got it. And I think a lot of companies I've spoken to as well talk about this kind of holy grail of omnichannel, but then they also talk about this connected customer experience, and that's something that you would say is the next steps in what you see.
I think making it easy to shop in any scenario that we're in, wherever the customer wants to interact, is really important, and that really sort of means that we keep that customer active with us, and those conversations active, rather than it always being a new conversation.
Got it. Simon, thank you so much for making the time. It was an absolute pleasure, and really enjoyed your insights, and can't wait to welcome you back for another session. So thank you.
Thanks.
And now, Karina Sani, Enterprise AI at Bambuser, will sit down with Mason Howell, Senior Business E-commerce Specialist and Social Commerce and Growth Manager at What Goes Around Comes Around, will sit down for an inspiring conversation on brand innovation. Karina, over to you.
Thanks, Nanny. I am thrilled to be here, joined by Mason Howell, Growth and Social Commerce Manager at What Goes Around Comes Around, aka Wagaka, as it's known by its big fans everywhere. They are a premier purveyor of pre-owned luxury accessories and apparel from around the world. You may know them from their partnership with Amazon or their beautiful stores in New York. They're doing some truly innovative things when it comes to blending content, commerce, and community. So we'll be talking about how they're using video commerce, what's working, what they've learned along the way, and where they see the market heading next. So let's get into it. Mason, hello. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Oh, amazing. We're so glad to have you here, and so excited to hear from you. I think to start, we really just want to hear, how are you actually using video commerce today?
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize we're not in our studio right now. My team and I actually had a show that ended up going up until about 1:30 a.m. last night. Ended up being about 6 hours long. We were only supposed to be four, but when the store's open and it's running, you don't close it. So keep going. So I apologize. My team is a little tired right now, so we didn't make it to the studio this morning. But we do have a full studio set up in New York City in the basement, the lower level of our Wooster Street store in New York City. So if any of you are interested, you're welcome to stop by and say hello at 113 Wooster and come to our studio. It's state-of-the-art that we've built with Blackmagic cameras. Bambuser actually helped us set it up, which was fantastic. Gave us all the recommendations because I kind of came in this fresh. I'm from the auction world. So I worked for Christie's and Sotheby's and head up their handbags department, where my only experience in live was really being an auctioneer through a camera for people on digital and space like that. So when it came to it, kind of starting this out, Bambuser has been such a guide to us to really grow onto this. So our first expectation when we first started the live department 2.5 years ago was that Bambuser came on and they integrated into our website. And that has been very wonderful and was probably the most easiest setup we've ever done for an integration standpoint in my life. So it was really great. But we discovered within our website, as just actually listening to everyone who just went through that's one of the issues we ran into, is that our kind of dullness to a website and our issue of the technology not being strong enough to help equip sometimes with us when we do the video commerce, when us do the all of the streaming on the PDP pages, and then our one-to-one connect with our clients. So as we have been developing our website and still utilizing Bambuser in that, we've explored other options as well. As Karina says, that we are exclusive partners with Amazon. So we're the only people allowed to sell pre-loved handbags and accessories on Amazon, luxury goods, that is. So we actually stream on there a lot as well. And a lot of that's used for marketing and other ways, promotions, Prime Days, and we have seen such a huge growth within that. Another platforms we've all gone to is TikTok. We did partnerships with them, whatnot. YouTube, Meta in general is probably one of our biggest spaces, and the great part is Bambuser helps us integrate within all of that as well.
And question, because it sounds like there's a lot of pots on the stove, so to speak, in terms of your video strategy. How do you measure the success of these different channels and initiatives?
Money for sure is number one. Sales. But I would say before the sales came, it was all about the community. And at first, we didn't know how to gauge it, because we're like, all right, we know that we have audience members, we know there's viewership, but we had 30,000 people view the show within those few hours, but no sales and like very little engagement. So how do we enhance that? We discovered community is the biggest thing. All of these people, they love knowing each other. Most of these people don't live in metropolitan cities like we do, or they may not have friends who understand this. They may have a higher income than their friends, but they love these luxury goods and their friends don't get it. So they have a community to talk with. And a lot of these people actually then meet up afterwards.
You've got to tell the sushi story. I love this story.
We have like a few of these ladies. There's 4 of them who get together on Sunday night. Sunday's our big show night. And they all have sushi and wine parties and watch us and shop. And it's so fun. And like, you can tell one of them's not there because they're like, oh no, I'm missing the sushi and wine party. Like, I have to take care of my kid. I'm like, oh, the kid's fine and low. Just gotta go over to sushi and wine. But, so it really builds community. And even like, for instance, one of my other favorite examples just happened last night. I was out of Hermes boxes for one of our for a scarf. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm out of boxes. And 3 people were like, I will ship you a box. I have an extra box. I was like, fantastic. Look at that community. But that's what helps build it, and they encourage each other to shop, and it helps us as well. So we have now gone a community aspect. So when we do any events or anything like that, it's always community focused. Any outreach, always community focused. So we're constantly building and generating within that. And one of the other ways that we've done that is also through something called mini chat and tons of other AI tools to help us connect with these people. Because as much as I would love to have that one-on-one connection with them, it's impossible as the audience has grown. So we're able to create kind of generations that when they say certain keywords or anything like that, it responds instantly to them. And that's also providing still that almost like in-person experience, but through a digital platform.
I love that, and I think it as the theme of this talk, as we think about the importance of an omni-channel approach, it sounds like you've really mastered bringing some of that in-store community to life for people that are even miles away. I have a question, and you've touched on this a bit, but it sounds like you've been engaging in this space for a while and really leveraging video to drive community for some time. What are some of the things that you might have really focused on in the beginning that have changed since you initially started working with video commerce?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there have been two major changes. Then, of course, small changes have erupted from that. The number one is the length of the show time. I think this may be more closer to a beauty or a fashion kind of style, but I think could work within any tech products as well. Is before we thought the show should only be about 30-45 minutes. That is now completely different. Our shows are a minimum of 3 hours. And as we saw last night, can go all the way to 6.5. We've done, we call them extravaganzas or paloozas, where we do 8 to 12 hours. And sometimes we did one time a 24-hour show, which I hope to never do again, to be harvested out. It was fantastic, but it was exhausting.
You're on par. You guys are on par with like the Twitch stream gaming industry. I love it.
I
It's
know,
fantastic.
but they get to sit down. That's the great part.
That's
We don't
right.
sit down, and they don't have to talk always.
Very true.
So that, but of course we have hosts. So it's not just me, up there for 24 hours. But we are constantly evolving in that way. And then I would say the other biggest part behind it has truly been kind of the I would say the less seriousness as we see a QVC and HSN. While amazing, we just saw QVC just downsized their company hugely to move to a social commerce platform rather than a direct on television. And they're very serious. And I even went to audition to be a QVC host, and I wasn't as serious as they liked. And that's something that we discovered in my beginning. I was very serious throughout all of it, thought I had to be perfect. They don't want perfect. They want you to have fun. The more like kind of out of the box I am, they enjoy it so much. And I think that's the beautiful part. You really have to let your personality shine through it. And it is entertainment in the end of the day. And they fall in love with you and you fall in love with them. I've never really actually fallen in love with clients in my 10 plus years of doing this until through the social. Maybe it's because I don't see them in person as much, but
some boundaries.
The boundaries. But it's the fact that I have a really strong connection with them now. And they feel the same way towards me. So they trust me when it comes to a product. Even if my product might be a little higher price than somewhere else, they want that connection. I think that's a huge thing we're seeing with e-commerce and, video commerce, social commerce overall, is that these clients want this connection because they can Google it and find it in 5 other places now. But what's going to make them come to me and what's going to make them pay maybe a little bit more because we are the higher end of the price range. So I think that is probably the biggest takeaway I've seen from these two is longer time periods and a stronger community and a stronger sense of being able to connect with them.
Yeah, it sounds like long form content is really winning, giving your customers an opportunity to engage with the brand, you, and each other is really powerful. And the human touch is more important than ever. As an expert in this field, and you've been, sort of moving and grooving and doing your auctioneering. And I love that you interviewed for QVC. You would have crushed it. But I love that you're showing up as your authentic self as Wagaka. What do you predict the resale luxury market is going to do next? Where are we headed?
Oh man, I think it's just ever growing. It's not going to stop. I think that it is, when I first joined it, a little over 10 years ago, it was kind of a smaller, it was really went to the auction community. Some of these other brands, Real, Rebag, Fashion Forward, they were around, but they're just starting to get off the ground. It was really just independent dealers. And now it's just exploded. And I think the next step into it, which I think AI and a lot of things are going to help with, is back to right now, we're seeing a lot of companies out there. I think it'll slowly kind of come back and converge to, the trust of who has the best authentication and things at that point, because now, we always say if they make it, they fake it. So, and this is in any industry, when I work in wine too, same thing. So people are going to always try to deceive other people. And I think the beauty about the luxury market and the resale market is that they adapt so quickly to stopping that. And that is something I think we're going to see continue and start really honing in. And clients are smart. I always tell everyone that these clients are smarter than us. they know this product more than us, and they will call you out for it. And they know the authentication. They're getting smarter because they don't know who to trust anymore. And I think that's the beauty, is that we're going to start seeing these companies who come ahead who really put authentication first and foremost to ensure that their clients are receiving the best product always. And that's what I love about what goes around comes around. We've been doing that for 30 years. Is authentication. We keep it in-house now, and it's one of the strongest teams. Even when I first started in this industry, they were always kind of leaders in authentication. So I think that's one of the best parts. And then I think one of the biggest community impacts to it is that we're going to see these groups keep forming. We're going to see people keep forming and coming together to create friendships. I think that's the beauty out of it, is it's not just about these goods. It's not about, we know they're pretty, we know they're beautiful, but the stories behind them, the history behind them, how you now got it. Like, hey, I got this off a live show with this psycho named Mason who has no idea, just is just a crazy person. You have to watch it, and I bought it with my friends all watching Sushi and Wine. Like, that is just a beautiful story and something that you can keep within these items. And not only that, it attributes that circular economy. So it's giving that piece another life and having pieces. I always tell people, if you want to get a Louis Vuitton Speedy, don't just get a normal Speedy. Get one from your kid's birth year or from your birth year. Those have been around since the 30s. You can find them. So I think that is kind of the cool part, is that make it fun, make it a story through all that. So I just see it.
I love that. It's like sentimental sustainability. That's great.
Oh, I love that. Sentimental sustainability. I'm going to use that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Mason. It sounds like the winning recipe is really authenticity, authenticity, authenticity. From your hosting to your product, that seems to be a major theme, and your community seems to really love it. Before we move on to the next section, is there any other final thoughts, final words of wisdom you'd like to share with our audience today?
Yeah. I feel like I said a lot already, but I would say, one thing, not just I feel like I'm the Bambuser mascot and cheerleader, because I love you guys so much. Honestly, for those of you who haven't used Bambuser yet, it's the best platform. I'm a little sad right now because our website's just undergoing construction. So the past couple of months, I've not been able to utilize it as much, and it is painful, I'll tell you. So honestly, it's your innovation, their technology. I feel like you guys are so much more ahead. My company, of course, makes us go and talk to other live streaming platforms, as one does. You got to do all the market, and it's never compared the same to Bambuser and to what they're able to offer in terms and all the innovations that they're coming up with. So I would say that's probably my last words of wisdom, is go with Bambuser.
Thank you, Mason. I really
Of course.
appreciate the time. It was so wonderful to catch up with you. We are now going to cross into a new territory with Beyond Borders, conquering new markets with virtual commerce. I will be joined by Michelle Chin, co-founder of Titanium Ventures, as she shares insights on video commerce in China.
Hello, Karina.
Hey, just a quick intro. We are so excited to welcome you, Michelle, from
Likewise.
Titanium Ventures. You're a leading expert in the Asian market. For everyone in the audience, she's been instrumental in helping global brands thrive in the digital landscape. And now Michelle is bringing her expertise to support Bambuser's expansion in China. So I think we'll just jump right in.
Right. Thank you so much for the intro. Yeah. So basically, when it comes to a successful customer journey in China, how does that look like? How is it market uniquely different from others? I mean, first of all, accessible customer journey in Chinese retail landscape is highly digital. Of course, we all know that. But in fact, that 47% of all retail sales in China is covered by e-com. That's pretty massive. If you compare it with the US, the penetration is around 17%. And in China, 90% of those 47% is mobile first. So you can imagine the sales of smartphones in China. We're 1.3 billion people. If everyone's using a mobile phone, we understand why Apple is big in China and why they put so much effort into that market. But anyway, secondly, in China, content, commerce, and community are totally and fully integrated, often within sort of a single platform. You may have heard about the super apps like WeChat, like Taobao, etc. And this you can compare to the West, where the journey is more fragmented and brand led in comparison to China, where everything is fully integrated. And lastly, how is it unique from others? I mean, live streaming is deeply rooted into the Chinese consumers' behavior. I mean, China is where it all started. It started off, I think, around 2016. And at that time, I was working in China as well. And we just got to know, we just got to see, TikTok, etc. And we were all thrilled. Like, wow, this is a new way of selling. And platforms such as Douyin, which is the Chinese version of TikTok, Kuaishou, and Tmall Live is today driving approximately 30% of the total Chinese online sale. So going back, 47% of our retail sales in China is covered by e-com. Well, 30% of that is pure live streaming. So that's pretty massive. Yeah. So those are the main parts, I would say.
Yeah, in the US, we're still waiting for,
For that boom,
everyone to catch
yeah.
up. Yes, and I'm curious, so when we think about, how unique the Chinese market and how mobile first and video first everything is, what does a successful, customer journey typically look like?
Right. So a typically journey looks like that. In fact, that you're mobile first, and what Mason mentioned before, a lot of them starts within live streaming, and he mentioned before that you were streaming normally around maybe 30 to 1 hour, whereas in China today brands tend to stream 24/7. We know one brand is a huge sort of toys brand called Pop Mart. They stream from 6 a.m. in the morning until 3 a.m. in the night. So this is how customer journey starts normally in China right now. People don't watch television anymore. This is entertainment. So that's why they just need to stream, because it's it's a war of who gets the most exposure. So therefore, the brands must stream every day and 24/7, basically. Yeah,
That's a great call out. The war to capture customer attention,
yeah, for sure.
24/7 streaming,
Yeah.
phenomenal. And I'm curious, when you think about the sort of future in China, what technologies do you think will bring, the biggest impact in the coming years?
Well, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a specific technology right now that in particular will impact the Chinese consumers as we speak. It's more that we are right now in China experiencing a shift from the marketplace that I was talking about before. We also call it public domains in China, and we're kind of going back towards the traditional e-commerce that in the West, the .coms, the apps that you need to download, etc. This is what Chinese consumers are going back to, or they are forced to going back to, because um, the, the fact that brands are struggling right now on those larger marketplaces such as Tmall, JD, and TikTok, etc., because they are ramping up the promotional intensity. Sellers, especially larger brands, they're forced to sort of slash prices to stay competitive, and eats their margins. And this forced brands to having to build direct and relationships and loyalty to the consumers, and take their ownership of their own domains and their own sales and their own brand story. So, like if we look into one example, I mean, why brands must shift towards private domains or their .coms or their apps owning their customer is when you talk about, for example, events such as Singles Day, right? Traditionally, it has been a massive e-commerce event with driving millions and millions of traffic and millions and millions of sales. And everyone was talking about that in the past, I would say 10 years or so, and was invented by Tmall and Alibaba, and the West was looking like, wow, this is amazing. But last year, it was a big news. During the single days period, Ralph Lauren had a tremendous sales, right? The sales reached over those singles day period, which is roughly a couple of weeks, around 220 million US dollars. Everyone was cheerful and happy. Wow, this is amazing. And I remember, back then, around 10 years ago, or not 10 years ago, 7 years ago, back at when we launched, I was back then at H&M and we launched Tmall, etc. The first hour when you hit the 10 million in sales, you're and amazed about the power of this platform, etc. But going back to Ralph Lauren, I mean, 220 million, they later found out that 95% was either canceled or returned. So it's not much left, right? It's not a healthy trend. Instead of making money during this type of hype or festival, they're losing money due to heavy investments also in marketing that goes into these periods. So therefore, they're now forced to go into sort of their private domain because there they have the most control. And can build loyalty on that. And therefore, you also see that live streaming needs also to move into the private domain, as this is where you build your own um, loyalty, etc. And live streaming is already deeply rooted into the Chinese consumer shopping behavior. So this is a must-have and a trust-based engagement, which is crucial in this very saturated digital landscape, I would say. And lastly, just one other thought that I had about this question. There is a really, how to say, something that is happening right now is that brands really need to look into their private domains, because there is this uncertainty around new tools as DeepSeek. Like ChatGPT here in the West recently launched their shopping assistant, and it's a good chance that DeepSeek will do the same, or they probably will. And
They probably
they
already
probably
have.
already have, exactly. But because they have uh, their own language model, it's unlikely that they will integrate. I mean, direct like Tmall has their own large language model, so it's unlikely they will integrate directly with platforms such as Taobao or JD, etc. But to link to, for example, the private domains, because that's would be the obvious way to do it. And I mean, then the brands really needs to ramp up their private domain game to be able to stay competitive on that on the DeepSeek ecosystem, right? Because it's now a big part of Chinese consumer search and discoverable things daily. So it's a serious shift in traffic in this way, away from the big platforms and away from the marketplaces where that's traditionally been boosting in terms of traffic and sales, and towards this, so what we call the private domains. So brands really need to be ready, and they just can't rely on those marketplaces anymore, I would say.
So it sounds like, to recap, in order to really be ready for this, GEO, as Christina put it
Yeah.
earlier, optimizing the website for, generative AI to surface the brand to customers, you've got to own the domain. You've got to promote on your channel. You've got to have live shopping content that's super engaging and ideally 24/7, and really help build that trust with the customer. And as we've heard from everyone speaking before, trust and customer engagement are a moat for maintaining retention and loyalty. Before we jump into the next section, Michelle, are there any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you would like to share with the audience?
No, I mean, I think you can think of China also as a sort of your playground, where you can localize and play around with all this new technology, because the Chinese consumer they they are so open to new technology, more open than in any other country, I would say. And we you were just talking about AI before. I mean, that has a significant role in Chinese consumer landscape right now. I mean, they are not afraid of AI avatars for live streaming, AI generated content. It's already living out there and is used 24/7 all the time.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you.
Now let's journey to Japan, and we'll hear from Joshua Grant, VP of Strategy at Dentsu.
Hello.
Hi, Joshua. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me. I must apologize. I'm in between meetings, so I jumped into a conference room, but thank you for having me.
No, all good. I appreciate you hopping in. I think to start, we would love to just hear a bit about your role and some of your thoughts on the social commerce space.
Yeah, I mean, so just some background on me. I've been working in Japan for about 7 years with Dentsu. I was with Dentsu previously in other markets, and for the last 3 years, I've been really focused on the luxury vertical within the agency. Um, and more specifically, driving innovation. So, how do you take sort of legacy heritage luxury and bring in new innovation, and in particular, connecting that to sort of technology aspect? Um, and as there's obviously people come to Japan and talk about how technologically advanced it is, but there's a lot of analog that goes on in Japan. We still have fax machines here. So one of my roles has really been in how I sort of became connected to Bambuser was thinking about how to, which I think started during the COVID process, to be honest. Japan is a very hands-on market. People like to shop in the store. If you look at Japan in comparison to other markets of its size when it comes to e-commerce, it's much lower than it should be. And that's a lot due to people wanting to tangibly touch things. And that's part of sort of Japanese culture, the making of products and having everything be very tactile. So during COVID, obviously that had to change. And so we saw a real resurgence or surge in e-commerce and particularly live shopping starting to sort of begin. One of the interesting things about live shopping that was an insight that we learned is, let's say, different to China, for example, where it's mostly influencer driven. What we found is what Japanese consumers want to see is they want to see experts because it has to replace their ability to go into the store. So this was something that we've talked a lot about is how do you create something specific for Japan that feels it is social commerce, but they want to talk to the experts. They want clienteling, right? So they want to be able to talk to their sales associate and have that
And I
connection.
imagine they don't want to have
And so
to
that's,
explain
yeah,
their needs over and over. They've got a very specific
exactly.
critique that they're based
Exactly.
on. Very important.
Exactly. And also, I think, there is a sense of one of the more surprising things to me was this like sense of privacy. So in a big sort of live shopping environment, you won't see a lot of engagement, too many questions and things like that because it's about sort of not standing out really. But then when you look at sort of clienteling or one-on-one with their essays or having experts, this is where you see that engagement. And so what we've been exploring a lot, obviously meeting the Bambuser team and having and partnering with them at Dentsu in Japan was how do we bring something that feels very unique to the Japanese market that feels very aligned with kind of cultural norms and cultural practices, and try to sort of accelerate and surge that commerce.
That's so wonderful. And it sounds like you've got quite a bit of expertise working in this market, and you've been very active. Where do you see the Japanese market going, in terms of e-com and live shopping and social commerce?
I mean, there's going to be a lot of growth, I think, in sort of social commerce and e-commerce in general. I think that a couple of things we saw. The first one is there were a lot of people who started using e-commerce for the very first time during COVID and have never looked back. And there were a lot of companies and organizations that started to adapt themselves to being able to sell their services through e-com. I remember like Uber Eats, for example, kind of, not that it's e-com, but that was like a big thing in COVID, and how those restaurants, those traditional Japanese restaurants, would develop the ability to deliver food, right? So I think that that's going to be a key driver, is just this new reality of change that has happened, and people sort of seeing and not wanting to go back. I think the biggest thing in terms of what's going to be important in this transition and sort of being able to make sure that companies can be successful in Japan with e-commerce is understanding kind of the nuances of Japanese e-commerce. I'm sure you've probably seen this. Japanese websites are full of just everything, right? There's pictures everywhere and
A lot
text
going on.
everywhere. Lot going on, right? But that's intentional. It's because the Japanese consumer wants to see everything. They want to know where the product was made, how it works, how they're going to use it, what could go well, what could go wrong, etc. And so one of the ways they do that is they just fill the website with information. I think also localization is going to be key. Um, Being able to find ways to have, let's say, social commerce or your products in a way that resonates with Japanese consumers. Why should they be using these products? Versus, I don't know, Japanese ones, for example. So thinking about localization, thinking about, I mean, you'd be surprised the number of conversations I have with brands about just like putting Japanese subtitles under their English content. It's like English is not spoken widely in Japan, and so if you're going to put English content and not have Japanese subtitles, at the very least, why are you doing it? Um, so yeah, I think it's those nuances, and similar to what the guest was saying before, I think Japan is a great place to play, um, because you can play with localization, you can play with trying new things, you can see how it works, what doesn't work, and then you can sort of replicate that into other markets. And then the last thing I'd say about just the Japanese sort of e-commerce is Japanese consumers are very well educated before they decide to buy something. They really have done a lot of research. They've checked reviews and reviews. They've gone on YouTube and watched reviews. They've asked their friends. So it's going to be really important, I think, with social commerce. We call it I call it like
I
edutainment,
love that. I'm using
which
that.
which is social commerce in the sphere of Japan needs to be more educational than entertaining.
Mm.
It needs to be, this is the product, this is how it's made, this is how it's constructed, this is how you would use it, this is where you can get it, this is how long it will last, this is how you will take care of it, etc.,
Good
etc.
question.
More of
Do
that
they
and less of
do
the.
they still like the content to be beautiful? Should it still be branded and elevated?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the brands actually that really started innovating in the live commerce space was Uniqlo. So Uniqlo very early on, I think started during COVID, um, started doing live shopping, 2 hour live shopping. I don't know if everyone's watching 2 hours, but it's 2 hours live shopping. But what they were really able to understand, and I think what really works about that, is it's shot in kind of one of their beautiful stores. Everyone is obviously dressed very well because it's Japan. And it really is about, it's almost like educated friends who are showing you the looks, and this is the textile that the product is made in, and then you have a model kind of showing it off and doing those things. But it's not designed to kind of be super entertaining. It's always still beautiful, and it's always still well put together and well organized and very clean, and so on and so forth. But you can see a difference in like, no, we need to explain, this is made of cotton and you're going to do this and it'll keep you warm in the summer, or, or cold in the summer, etc. So, but yeah, the beauty is there, but it's more informational than entertaining, I would say, at least for
I
me.
love it. I like getting right down to business. No frills. Answer the question. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Joshua. It was fantastic to hear from you. I think now I will pass the stage over to Nanny.
I mean, what an incredible journey we've had today. One that really reminds us of just how powerful the right blend of technology, strategy, and, as Kristina said, human connection can be together. From AI to global market expansion, our speakers have offered valuable insights to spark innovation and action, and we really hope that you leave feeling inspired and ready to take the next step in your own journey. If you'd like to connect with any of today's speakers, feel free to reach out to them on LinkedIn. And if you're curious to learn more about virtual commerce and the work we do at Bambuser, we'd love to hear from you. A big thank you to all of our speakers today, but also, of course, for you, to all of you who's watching. Not only watching, but also going beyond with us. Until next time, take care and goodbye.